Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to talk about an emotion that we all experience, and that's anger. In particular, I'd like to break down three common types of anger that we experience and four practical tools that we can do to better manage anger in our lives. Anger is a natural emotion and it serves us well evolutionarily to stay away from threats and to be able to keep our boundaries safe. However, in the modern day, there's lots of times where anger is no longer a constructive emotion and it's something that we experience a lot more than we necessarily need to because it's no longer providing that general sense of safety. So, without further ado, let's dive into the three types of anger. The first one being rage. Rage is this uncontrollable anger, this force that almost seeks to destroy anything in its path. That idea of seeing red is something I often think about, where somebody who's experiencing rage, if it's extremely intense and the dial's turned up, they may not even have a recollection of what happened in that moment. Rage arises when our sympathetic nervous system is cranked up on high. Our fight or flight is running the show. We are literally in those moments out of control. Our aggressive behavior is turned up, our physical arousal is on full blast, and we're very agitated. So we're not making conscious, rational decisions in those moments. And often that has a terrible impact for ourselves and for the people around us. The second is unclean anger. And I think this is the most insidious and pervasive form of anger that we see culturally. Unclean anger seeks to find criticism, judgment, and blame with something outside of us. We project wrongness and wrongdoing on other people or other things in our lives that are the source of our anger. Rather than finding a deeper understanding of where this is coming from, it's easier to, again, cast judgment and criticism onto the people or the things that we think are stimulating that. When I'm noticing this unclean anger starting to come up, something to be mindful of is that there's almost always an underlying emotion under that anger that's happening at the surface. That could be fear, that could be jealousy, that could be sadness. There's all kinds of different emotions that are there. But if I'm starting to experience something and I'm finding myself where I'm externalizing wrongness, it's a great opportunity to slow down, catch the stories that are happening, and wonder what is underneath of this. A good thing to look for as well is if I'm experiencing anger longer than 30 seconds to a minute, or experiencing it long after that initial threat has been removed, that is likely a form of unclean anger that is coming through. That is likely tied to a story that I'm some kind of victim in this situation and I'm giving away my power, in essence, to other people or other things. The third type of anger is clean anger. And this anger can be used to help restore boundaries or bring back homeostasis. An excellent example of this would be a lioness with her cubs. If there is a threat of something coming in to potentially harm her cubs, the lioness will experience intense and immediate anger to be able to do whatever she needs to do, including put her life on the line to be able to protect her little cub. However, the second that that threat has dissipated and she knows that her cubs are safe, the anger goes away with it. There's no story attached to thinking whoever the predator or the threat that was coming in is some kind of asshole or jerk, or there's none of that. It's restore homeostasis, create the boundary. Once the boundary is established, the anger's gone. This is something that we can come back to and develop deeper into our awareness is, am I doing this to protect an immediate threat or restore a boundary? If that is the case, anger can be justified and even warranted in certain cases to be actually able to protect yourself. However, if this is ongoing and lasting, it's very likely that it's one of the first kinds of anger. Given that anger can be both such a destructive force or a protective force, it's important to develop a deeper sense of granularity about which type of anger this is. To understand what is triggering the anger, what's underneath that, is this justified right now? Start to develop an awareness so that I can use my sort of discernment to know when anger is merited and justified, and when maybe I need to dig a little bit deeper and assess what's underneath so that I'm not hurting other people in my life or hurting myself. With that, let's look at 4 practical tools that you can take with you in your life to help develop a deeper sense of discernment of your anger and a deeper ability to control and work with it. The first tool I'd offer is to develop and deepen your sense of self-awareness. This is critical because it involves me starting to cultivate a moment-to-moment awareness of what is happening. In order to be able to develop my ability to discern what kind of anger is coming through, I need to start to tune in with what's alive in my body in the moment. The ways that have been most impactful for me to do this is to remain mindful of my breath, of my body, and of my posture. I want to notice if my breath is ever starting to get shallow or up into my chest or shoulders. Then that's generally a sign that my body is more in a sympathetic state. It's more in that fight or flight, and way more likely to be in that rage state or the unclean anger, or even a form of merited and justified clean anger. But just start to notice when the breath is getting shallow, when it's getting short, rather than being deep and into the belly and long inhales and exhales. Another is what's happening in the body, what's happening in your direct felt experience. Is there tension happening? Is there tingling? What's the intensity of that like in different parts of your body? Just noticing the texture and the quality of what's happening in the body will be a massive indicator to what you're experiencing emotionally. And for us as men, our vocabulary for emotions is quite weak, but we tend to be very physical beings. So noticing your direct felt experience can be an incredible tool and a gateway to deeper understanding with what's happening at the emotional level. A bonus reflection for you is to take time to reflect on the patterns that lead to triggers in your life. Are there certain scenarios or contexts or individuals that tend to trigger a sense of anger or a sense of dysregulation within you? Reflect on that and start to notice the patterns, because the more that we can bring awareness to the patterns, we can become more proactive on addressing the moments or knowing ahead of time or in the moment that this is likely going to set me off or dysregulate me. The second tip is nervous system regulation. That's the ability to really slow down what's happening in my body, bring a deeper sense of awareness, and shift from that sympathetic fight or flight or freeze response to the parasympathetic regulated state where I can actually make conscious decisions, where my prefrontal cortex is working on my side and I can rationalize as well as leverage my intuition to create a grounded response to the situation rather than something reactive that initial pattern or habitual response triggers. And the best tools, again, for this, I've talked about this in past videos and we'll talk about it again in the future, no doubt, is starting to regulate the breath. If I can start to control something that is normally happening unconsciously, especially when I'm in those triggered states, my breath is going to automatically almost always be short and shallow. So if I can bring even that degree of self-awareness here, then I can choose to slow down my breath and to deepen it deeper into my abdomen, maybe a nice 4-second inhale through the nose, a 6-second exhale out through the mouth, and just keep going with that rhythm, even for a minute or two. But I first need to bring that awareness in to the present moment so that I can choose to breathe differently. Or if you're somebody who's really physical, And maybe that's practicing some yoga, whether you need to stimulate your body and do something a bit more active to get back into it, or maybe some yin yoga or some meditation that can bring you back into your body to slow you down. Either way, bringing your awareness back into your breath, back into your body is an incredible way to shift the state of your nervous system and be able to deepen your capacity to respond rather than react to the present moment. The third step is to communicate openly and vulnerably. This is incredibly challenging and it takes a lot of practice. There are wonderful communication strategies that I highly recommend, and I won't get into in this particular video. I'll unpack sometime in the future. Things like nonviolent communication or imago dialogue are incredibly effective tools, both as a speaker and as a listener, to deepen into understanding and compassion and deepen your connection with somebody, to both share what's happening in your body and to clarify and listen and hold space for what somebody else is bringing to you. If you're experiencing anger or some extremely intense emotion, after you've started to unpack this for yourself and get clear on where that is coming from, highly recommend doing that for yourself first. But if you're in the heat of it, start to just name what's happening in your body. Again, if you're a man in particular, your emotional vocabulary may be limited, but you can start by leading saying, I'm feeling a lot of contraction in my chest right now, and it's compromising my ability to be present right now. I just need to name that. And maybe that tension in my chest is what I'm thinking is anger, but as I'm starting to talk through, maybe it's actually some sadness because I had a desire for a certain outcome here and that didn't happen. Or I'm scared and I'm using my anger as a shield. There's all kinds of ways that that story can go. And the more we lean in, the more we practice it, the more we work with these tools, the easier this will get. But just start by naming what's happening in your body and sharing that with the person that you're experiencing this situation with. Be vulnerable, be transparent, because if you're just putting up and staying defensive, they're going to think you're angry and disassociating rather than wanting to lean in. And it's going to just create more disconnection. And really what we're craving in that time is to be seen and be understood and have our boundaries honored and restored. So practicing that courageous communication is critical. And if you're feeling too heated in the moment, practice saying, can we take 5 minutes? Can we take 10 minutes? Can we take 2 hours? Take what time you need to go do something that will help you regulate, or take some time in the woods to think about what's actually going on so you can start to put some words to it. Put a timeline on it with the other individual so that they know that you're not abandoning ship or closing off or running away, and then come back and re-engage in that conversation with a deep, genuine desire and commitment to share what's alive and understand what's going on in the other person. The more we do this and the more we practice it, the easier it gets. But it is a practice. So be patient with yourself. Just do the best you can to lean into that. The fourth and final tip I'll leave today is to seek support. If anger is a common theme in your life and often it becomes crippling and overwhelming and it's negatively impacting you and your partner, your kids, your friends, your family, other people in your life, ask for help on how to navigate and deal with the anger. Even if that's a particular situation, even if anger isn't a constant for you, and there's a particular moment where it's coming up, talk to somebody about it. Talk to somebody that you can trust, who's not going to trigger a deeper state, but somebody that you can allow yourself to be seen and maybe unpack what's underneath that, especially if it's not an immediate threat that's coming on and the anger is not necessarily justified. Lean into that with somebody else, whether that's a therapist, a coach, a trusted friend, a trusted family member, somebody that you know you can bring this to who isn't going to judge you or outcast that, but that can hold and receive all of you without needing to fix it, without needing to do anything. They can just be there to hold space so that you can get clear and move through what's coming up. I can't emphasize this enough, and the impact that that's had on me to help bring clarity to the struggles I'm going through has been absolutely invaluable. it's important to remember that understanding and managing our anger is very challenging and it takes time. And anger is not something to repress and suppress like the nice guys that we've been taught to, but it's to be able to cultivate the ability to be dangerous, but not be a danger to others. I want to be in a healthy relationship with my anger so that I know I can keep myself safe and I know I can keep the people in my life safe, but it's not coming out in unwarranted situations. I have a healthy control on my anger so that I'm not aggressively lashing out on other people in unwarranted situations. I need to develop and refine my ability to be able to channel my wild man as a constructive force for good. This shit takes time. So be patient with yourself, be patient with others, lean into the four tools that I mentioned above, and get curious about those three types of anger and know how they're showing up in your life. Notice the patterns of when those different types of anger show up and just start to get curious. Again, if you need to, ask for support. You do not have to take this stuff on alone. And honestly, it's not something that we should be taking on alone. We all need help. We all need support to be able to develop and grow at an accelerated pace and to make the most out of this beautiful life. I'd love to hear from you. How do you deal with anger in your life? Do you find it's a force that sometimes can be all consuming? Are there ways that your anger has impacted negatively yourself and the people in your life? Do you work hard to suppress it and push it down and be that nice guy? How is your relationship with anger? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you found value in this video, please share this with a man that you think could benefit to hear this so that we can all elevate our status and our capacity as men to be able to lead our lives effectively. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Stu Murray, and we'll see you next week.